welcome to part 3 of the introduction to Mensteopathy. Now, what does Mensteopathy actually mean? It has separate meanings in its own, but at the core value, it means the mind's theological pathology that you may essentially, if you may understand theology or philosophy, which is a root of theology, is also the idea of what is known as perspective, gaining a greater ground, overseeing a part of life you have experienced, and based on that perspective, you may now see that you can actively get a greater way of looking at things, where you become stronger in your own mind, in your own body, in your own spirit. But how does one find a way to actively create that notion? Well, that is the beauty of where we find the root of Mensteopathy. It's the idea of changing the perspective or the pattern at which you are processing and seeing things, which, rather than supplementing the use of medications which are actively cutting away the process of that particular experience, but are not taking care of the root of that particular experience, which means the individual just simply resonates and stays in a stagnant state, stuck in that emotion until they become numb and they are now no longer experiencing life. They have begun a depression. And the idea of changing the perspective without a chemical supplementation of a synthetically made hormone or neurotransmitter source, which in itself alters your physiological, your body's patterns and ability to create its own process, which then results in negative side effects, which are adaptations the body has evolved with as a result of having these negative chemicals within your system that have changed your body's natural process. And so in the changing of the perspective, we can actively change and rewire a person's brain based on forms of therapy. And in the perspectives of therapy, both based on physiological and psychological notions, is also the idea that one must express not just their emotional self through a mental process such as art, music, painting, on and on and on, which they may resonate with a particular piece of art. They may feel a emotion drawn to that particular mental expression. But now we also have to dive into the physical or physiological state that which the emotion has attached a pattern within the body, which now you begin to see that mensteopathy is the true root of all medicine, because that is at the true core of what real medicine should be. Getting to the core of the process that has altered the body's natural process, resulting in that particular injury, inflammation, or tear, deterioration of the tissue. And this is often linked to psychological processes which result in the storing of these notions or emotions, resulting in how your genetic matter processes itself based on the patterns you are attaching to your body. And if you don't believe me, why would you get a tattoo if that was not what you were doing at that particular point to symbolize an emotion and place it upon your body? In the same way you can attach something to the body to process an emotion, you can attach things to your body to process an emotion. This is known as the muscular body, which is obeyed. Primarily, it obeys the nervous body, and the nervous body obeys the lymphatic body, and the lymphatic body controls all of this through what is known as the energy process, that which you can flow with energy through the lymphatic nervous activation of the blood vessels, resulting in oxygenation and eventually your ability to come to life. And the understanding of Mensteopathy, we also begin to see the beginning of natural birth processes and learning how to induce natural birthing processes where we can treat women for postpartum disorders, emotional disorders. Because for most women, I can actively say that once you give birth, it freaks you out a little bit as an understatement to say, holy, that just came out of me and it's alive. And that creates a psychosis in itself. It creates a pattern where you feel a bit afraid, to feel like you have just created life. You have just given birth to life, and you finally feel a woman once you enter psychosis at that particular point, the same way a man feels a man first when they enter a psychosis. But both are a separate experience, and in order for the experience of the man and the woman to be explained, we must now first result back into the experience of man and understanding the faith that which man has created. But we are now in the era of woman. And in the era of woman, I would invite the institution of Mensteopathy to not just treat the irregularities of not just the treatments of your cycle. Because in understanding your cycle, you must understand your process, which I will dive in deeper as I go further and further into the Mensteopathy. Because in the understanding of Mensteopathy, we actively learn that consciousness is what generates the body, the matter, the life you experience. And in the life you experience, the resonance you change the consciousness's experience result in the change you experience life with. You change the story you live with until you become the one you have always wanted yourself to be when you were younger. But in this present day and age, because let's face it, we do not age as we believe we are meant to. The measure of time we are given in our understanding of aging is a false teaching, which is another measure of Mensteopathy, the measure of how deep your memories are rooted in its core primal function, which has resulted in your now present day and age, how you act based on the depth of the experience you have gone back in time, which now resulted in the mental or emotional stress or emotional distress disorder you have entered as a result of having experienced that lineage of time. Welcome to the introduction and the third part of Mensteopathy. Thank you.